Thank you for inviting us. And the topic I was asked to speak about is a nice topic. Durga Shakti. This is a Durga temple. So Durga Shakti within Vaisnava Sastra. And then Lord Jagannath within Vaisnava Sastra. That's our two topics this evening. Now, Goddess Durga, I think a good place to start is Goddess Durga. What's the meaning of her name? She's pictured here riding on a lion, and she has 10 arms, and in each hand there's some weapon. And one of her businesses is subduing wrongdoers. According to the etymology, Dur means with great difficulty. She's difficult to worship, and she's difficult to understand through her worship. Durga. It's from Gautamiya Tantra. And this Durga that's being spoken of in this verse from Gautamiya Tantra, this is the Sarup Shakti of the Supreme Person. That is to say, in the material world, there's a manifestation of the Durga of the spiritual world. Chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita. In simple language, as above, so below. Whatever we find below in this realm, there's the spiritual counterpart in the spiritual realm. So therefore, there's a Durga that's in this realm, and there's a Durga that's in the spiritual realm. And same for any of the potencies of the Supreme. There, his Swarup Shakti, his own personal Swarupa Shakti, and then there's the expansion of his Swarup Shakti in this realm. So here's a very nice example of how that works. As we know, in the advent of Lord Krishna, Krishna was the 8th child of Vasudeva and Devaki, yes? 8th child. And the first 6 of the 8 children were killed by Kamsa. And child number 7 was still within the womb of Devaki, and Krishna, who had not yet appeared, summoned his Yogamaya potency. Yogamaya is a spiritual potency, his own spiritual potency. Here's the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. After Lord Krishna ordered his Yogamaya, "O my potency, who are worshipable for the entire world, and whose nature is to bestow good fortune upon all living entities, go to Braja." What was she supposed to do in Braja? Well, first and foremost, she was to transfer the 7th child of Devaki to the womb of Rohini, because the 7th child of Vasudeva and Devaki was Balaram. Right? And then she had the service number 2. After transferring the 7th child to the womb of Devaki, to Rohini, she was to take her birth in Braja, because they're in Mathura. Mathura and Braja are nearby, but they're not the same. So here's the verse. He then blessed her, saying, in different places on earth, people will give you different names, such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, and Ambika. That's a lot of names. She's known, Durga is known by different names in this world, in this way. So she, Yogamaya, was to take birth as the daughter of Yashoda. And then Krishna said, after you take birth, I will, the same evening that you take birth from the womb of Yashoda, I will take birth as the 8th child of Devaki in the prison house of Kamsa. And when I take my birth, I'm going to ask Vasudeva to transfer me from the prison house of Kamsa to the side of Yashoda, and then he, Vasudeva, my father, will bring you back to the prison house of Kamsa. And Kamsa will think that you're the 8th child of Devaki. And he'll come into the prison and try to kill you. But he won't be able to kill you because you're my Yogamaya potency. Yogamaya can't be killed. So don't worry. And after that, the next service is your manifestation, the transformation of Yogamaya, is known by these various names. Durga, Bhadrakali, etc. And one of those names listed here is Maya. So we all know what Maya is. Maya is the illusory potency, or deluding or bewildering potency. There she is, the Shakti of the Supreme Lord in the material world, acting through the agency of the 3 modes of nature. Goodness, passion, ignorance, with the presiding deities of each of those 3 modes pictured in this nice painting. And that's the names of Durga as she's known in this world. There's a very nice commentary by Vijayadwaj Tirtha in a writing that he's written giving the meanings of these different names. Maya is known as Durga because she is approached with great difficulty. That's the etymology of her name. As Bhadra, because she is auspicious. Kali, because she is deep blue. Most powerful energy, Vijaya, because she is one of the different energies of Vishnu. She is known as Vaishnavi, because she enjoys in this material world and gives facilities for material enjoyment. She is known as Kumuda, because she is very severe to her enemies, the Asuras. She is known as Chandika. And because she gives all sorts of material facilities, she is called Krishna. So that very night, when Krishna was born, the Ashtami night of the moon, Krishna appeared. There's Vasudeva placing the male child by the side of Yashoda, who was now asleep, and took the female child and brought the female child back as he was told he was to do. And he brought the child, the 8th child of Devaki was born. It was a female, and Kamsa heard, and he came in to do what he did with the first 6 children. He grabbed the child, he was a very mean person, by her legs and raised her in the air as if to smash her on a rock in the prison house, and she slipped from his hand. There we see this nice painting. The child, the infant, rose from his hand and appeared in the form of Durga, and she then laughed at him. Kamsa, you are such a fool. The 8th child of Devaki has already been born, and soon he will kill you. Ha ha ha. And then she disappeared. And everyone heard her voice, and Kamsa heard her voice included, and he was very fearful. Now he is powerful, but he couldn't kill this little infant, and little infant turned into Durga and scolded him severely. So that's a little explanation from our Vaisnava Sastra of how we view Durga. We'll say it again slowly. Durga is an expansion of the internal potency Yogamaya. There's the original Swarup Shakti, and there's the manifestation in this realm called Durga. But she has her spiritual counterpart. Similarly, in our Vaishnava Shastra, there's a very nice pastime where the young gopis in Braja, they had a very strong desire to marry Krishna, and as the custom in Braja at that time, young girls became married at a young age, pre-puberty, so that when they reached puberty, they already knew who they were married to. They didn't have to go through all that anxiety about who I'm going to marry and all that stuff. So they were already married when they were young, but they had already decided who they wanted to marry. And it's really nice. They had no envy. They all wanted to marry the same boy. You know what it's like, one girl and another girl and a whole bunch of girls, they want to marry the same boy, and there's competition stuff, to say the least. None of that in Braja. They all decided to observe a Kartik Vrata or Katyayani Vrata during the coldest month of Magh. January in Vrindavan is very, very cold. So what they did was they got up very early in the morning before the sun came up, and they worshipped the deity of Katyayani, who was the name of Durga, and to have Krishna as their husband. But, several buts, they were poor, village people, village girls. They didn't have money to have a nice deity, so they made a deity made of earth and water, Jamuna water and earth. You put water and earth together, what do you get? Mud. They fashioned a deity of Katyayani out of mud with nice decorations and garments and clothing and this and that, and they worshipped Katyayani in that form. And they ate only one meal a day, this havashana, and it's it's severe. It's not very palatable, but that's what once a day for the whole month. And before the sun came up, as you see in the painting, they bathed in the freezing cold river Jamuna water up to their necks. Now, I don't know how you would compare the temperature these days in St. Louis to the temperature in Vrindavan during the month of January, but it's comparable. It's very cold. I've been there. It's very cold. And so it's a very once a day bath in the Jamuna River at that hour of the morning before the sun comes up, and one meal a day, and worshiping Katyayani, saying in unison the same prayer to Katyayani. They want Krishna as their husband. Please bless us. The austerity was for that purpose. Now Krishna knew what they wanted. So what did Krishna do? He's very clever. While they were bathing in the river, Krishna came and took all their clothes, which were just by the side of the river, gathered them up, climbed up a tree. You see beneath the tree there's Katyayani, and told the girls, you want to get your clothes back? You have to come forward, and you can't hold your hands down, you have to hold your hands up, which means they're naked and they're showing their private parts when their hands are up. And that was his requirement, because it means A girl can't be naked before someone unless it's her husband. So he was accepting them as their husband, each one, and promised them that later they would become his wife. So they were giggling and but that was the pastime. Our acharyas describe something very important. You can't worship the material energy to get Krishna as your husband. You can worship the spiritual potency to get Krishna as your husband. So the Katyayani that they were worshiping was not the material counterpart, but the spiritual counterpart. Is it clear? That's what they were doing, and that's what Krishna accepted. Why Krishna accepted them? Because it was just Krishna only, the Supreme Personality of Godhead only. Now I want to make a few other references. One of them is recorded. There's a very nice set of prayers. Many of our devotees here are familiar with those prayers. There's prayers by Lord Brahma. The first created being in the cosmic manifestation is Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma, by chanting of his sacred mantras, he became well acquainted with the ocean of truth, with a capital T, the absolute truth. And he offered a number of prayers that have the refrain, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So I hope technology is going to cooperate. As you see in big red letters, the Devi, the goddess Durga. So I hope the recording comes out. Devi Mahesha Haridama Shute Shuteshu Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vihitaschayena Govindavani Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindavani Purusham Amaham Bhajami. In this verse, Lord Brahma is describing the structure of the universe. At the Devi Dham, above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham, above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham, and above Hari Dham is Goloka Dham. That's what the verse is saying. So here's the translation. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham. There's a nice chart or a poster showing where that little yellow arrow is pointing to, this universe that we're in. That's part of Devi Dham. And above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham. Now the little note on the left side says Durga has an additional abode besides this universe. That is, each of the universes, if you look closely, you see that there's 7 layers covering the universe. The inside is hollow, and the outside there's 7 layers. And one of those layers is the layer that's the abode of Durga. And above Durga is the abode of Mahesh Dham. And above Mahesh Dham is all this. Let me get this laser pointer going here. Laser pointer, there we go. This is the abode of Mahesh in this region here. There you see Kailash. Maybe you see it better in the next photograph. Here we go, next photograph. Here's the universe with its 7 planetary systems, and there's this region that's the layer of the universe where Durga also has her residence. And up here, there's Mahesh Dham, the abode of Mahesh. There's Lord Shiva, and so forth. Mahesh Dham. And above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham, going back here. This, where these little universes are, there's spiritual planets called Vaikuntha planets, and this is the region of Haridham, and above the region of Haridham is Golokadham. Now this is from Sri Brahma Samhita. According to the description of Durga, she is 10-armed, representing the 10-fold fruitive activities. She rides on the lion, representing her heroic prowess. She tramples down Mahishasura, representing the subduer of vices. She is the mother of two sons, Kartikeya and Ganesh, representing beauty and success. She is placed between Lakshmi and Saraswati. This is in the spiritual realm. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, she is placed in between Lakshmi and Saraswati, representing mundane opulence and material knowledge. She is armed with the 20 weapons, representing the various pious activities enjoined by the Vedas for suppressing of vices. She holds the snake, representing the beauty of destructive time. So there's a little description. And here's a nice painting. She's subduing Mahishasura in various ways. So here's a depiction of Mahesh Dham, a close-up of what that larger poster showed. This is Mahakala Dham, and here's the abode of Lord Shiva, Shivaloka. And above Shivaloka, there's Sada Shiva in Shivaloka, and there's the Brahmajyoti. And above the Brahmajyoti, there's all these spiritual planets. In the center of all the spiritual planets, above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. So that's a verse from Brahma Samhita depicting the structure of the universe, and above the universe, the spiritual sky, the abode of Hari, and Krishna's realm. There's one additional verse that is found in Sri Brahma Samhita that also focuses especially on Durga. Here's the verse. I hope that sound works. In the second line, you see the word Chayeva. Chaya is the indication of the position of Durga. She's the shadow or reflection of the Lord's spiritual potency. Here's the translation. The external potency, Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow or Chaya of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, Srishti, preserving, Sthiti, and destroying, Pralaya, agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. The painting depicted here is Mahavishnu, who, when it's time for creation, he glances over Durga. And by his glance, the glance of Mahavishnu impregnates Durga. Prakriti, material nature, becomes impregnated by the glance of Mahavishnu, and within the glance of Mahavishnu, there's two things. There's Kala, the time energy, and there's the Jivas, the living entities. Say it again. The glance of Mahavishnu carries these two things. Living entities, the totality of all living entities, and the time energy. Because you can't have creation, you don't have activity without time. Time is required. So the Kala Shakti is entrusted to the glance of Vishnu by Rama Devi. And the living entities entrusted to the glance of Mahavishnu by Rama Devi, his internal potency. And he glances over the reflection, that is Durga, pictured here. And she, Durga, does according to the will, or Icha, the desire of the Supreme Person. She's under his direction. Durga is possessed of Durga, two words. Durga is the person. Durga is what she's in charge of. That's Durga means prison. Durga is in charge of the prison of Durga. When jivas begotten of the marginal potency, or Tatastha Shakti, forget the service of Krishna, they are confined in the mundane prison house, or Durga, the citadel of Durga. So that's where we are. That's the three modes of material nature. We saw them before. Agencies of Maya, Maya Shakti. And by their organization, the living entities down below, some are thinking they're the workers, and some are thinking they're the controllers of the workers, but they're all under the control of the material nature. And what is material nature under the control of? Krishna. She moves according to his Icha. He doesn't have to do anything. She does everything. She's very powerful, and she moves according to his will. And that's a little summary of what Vaisnava scriptures say about the position of Durga. We're here at Durga's temple, and this is a Vaishnava perspective of her, the spiritual counterpart as well as the material counterpart. And also on the altar, very nice deities of Lord Jagannath. So here's a little something about how Vaisnava Sastra speaks of or thinks of the deity of Lord Jagannath. Of course, Jagannath means Baladev and Subhadra as well. This is a nice photograph. Normally we see Lord Jagannath without having hands, but this is a nice deity in Jagannath Puri where he's depicted as having hands, 4 hands, and the 4 symbols of Vishnu are in his 4 hands. More commonly, we see the form of Lord Jagannath like this. On Jagannath Rath Yatra, he's dressed very gorgeously, or just every day in temples, he's dressed very nicely, and along with Baladev and Subhadra, he's the forms of the Lord and his sister and his first expansion, Balaram, and they're being worshipped. So a little bit of the history of how Jagannath came to be. It's a nice narration. And the narration begins long, long ago. In a previous age, there was one king named King Interdumna, and everything in his kingdom was virtuous because he was virtuous. There was prosperity in his kingdom, and people were happy, and it's a different age. It wasn't Kali Yuga. And everything was splendid except for one thing. King Indradumna was unhappy because he had a spiritual aspiration that wasn't met by all this opulence and nicely organized kingdom. He wanted to directly serve the Supreme Lord. This is a very advanced stage of devotion. He was a very advanced devotee, and so he had this desire. And what happens when you have a spiritual desire? Sometimes, quite often, the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows you have a spiritual desire, so he sent a representative. The representative was a pilgrim, a very simple man, and the pilgrim came before King Indradumna to inform King Indradumna there is such a place where the personality of Godhead is personally worshipped. I've seen it. I've been there. King Indradumna became very enthused, so he sent his very trusted assistant, minister, named Vidyapati, to go and search for the place where he was told the deity of the Supreme Lord is worshipped. And Niladri was that place. When he came to the place, this is a nice illustration, he climbed up and up and up, Niladri, a dark hill. And when he came, the deity was not available. He was not allowed to see the deity because the deity was being worshipped by a Shabara, principally the king or tribal chieftain of the Shabaras. And so Vidyapati, being a very intelligent minister, he did something that could help gain access to the deity, and that is, he just ignored altogether the fact that the daughter of the chieftain of the tribals was not very elevated by birth. He married her, the daughter of the tribal chieftain Vishvasu. And because they were married, the daughter doesn't give her name. She was able to persuade her father, Vishvasu. Eventually he was saying no, 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 but eventually he said okay, but he has to go blindfolded to see the deity. He really wants to see the deity. So Vidyapati was clever. He carried some mustard seeds, and as they were walking to where the deity was, he was dropping behind him mustard seeds that later became mustard plants, and was the way that they could find their way to the deity. So he went up and up and up and up and up, and sure enough, there was Vishvasu's deity, known as Lord Nilamadava. A very nice painting indicating the form of Nilamadava. And because he was the Shabara chieftain, he didn't have great affluence, but he had great devotion, and he wanted to personally serve the deity. So he just served the deity with very simple fruits and flowers. And on a regular basis, Vidyapati, along with his good wife, went to see the deity. And he, Vidyapati, didn't complain that the worship wasn't done so nicely, but the deity knew the desire of the king, Indradumna, and so the deity one day spoke to Vishvavasu, indicating that what you're offering is very nice, and I'd like to have more opulent offerings, please. So Vishvavasu figured it out real fast. Vishvavasu understood this is Vidyapati, is petitioning my Lord, and he was devastated. My Lord doesn't want my offerings. He wants this more opulence. I don't have the more opulence. That means he'll be worshipped by somebody else. So he tied up his son-in-law. The wife unbound him. And he then Vidyapati went back, now newly married, to inform King Indradyumna, I found the deity. And they're worshiping the deity in this way, that way, and I can take you to where the deity is. So King Indradyumna was enlivened like anything. He brought an entire army with the plan to take charge of the deity and worship the deity in great opulence. However, when he came with his big army, there was a problem. There's always a problem. The problem was they followed, Vidyapati, and the king followed the trail of the mustard plants going up and up and up to where the deity was. And when they got to where the deity wasn't there anymore. And the gate was locked. And so Indradyumna was devastated. And he thought the only person who has done this, who would do something like this, is Vishwavasu. He hid the deity somewhere. So he went and his father, the father-in-law of Vidyapati, confronted Vishwavasu, and Vishwavasu was devastated. I don't know where he went. He left. I thought it was you. So they didn't trust him. They tied him up. And there was a big confrontation thing going on because he's the chieftain being tied up by King Indradyumna. And fortunately, Narada Muni came on the scene. And Narada Muni said, don't worry, everything's going to be nice. They trusted him because he's Narada Muni. And he said, this is the Lord's plan, and let me reveal to you what the plan is. He wants to be worshipped in a very opulent way. He already told Vishwavasu that. So here's the first thing you should do. Create and construct a gorgeous temple for the deity. First step. Now, Nilamadeva is gone, but there's going to be another deity. And then, when the temple was constructed, just the two, Narada took King Indradyumna all the way to Brahmaloka. Now, most persons in human forms don't get access to Brahmaloka, but if you go with Narada, you can get access. He's got the password, how to get in. And Lord Brahma explained to Indradyumna what was his plan, or the Lord's plan, because he knew the Lord's plan. He wants to appear on earth and be worshipped by everybody. And the glory of the Supreme Lord Nilamadeva should be worshipped by everybody. So the plan of the Lord is to have a deity carved in wood from the spiritual sky. An arrangement we made for a large log to descend from the spiritual sky to the earthly realm, and that log can then be carved and placed in the temple. And I'll personally come and do the installation. Now Indradyumna knew the plan. Narada already knew the plan, but he wanted Narada to hear it. He wanted King to hear it directly from Lord Brahma. So they went back. But something happened. For the short time that he had gone to Brahmaloka, years and years and years and years had passed on earth. And when he came back, everyone was gone. The people in his kingdom, they didn't, who are you? Vidyapati was gone. Everyone was gone. And mystically, this, according to this narration, a mystical crow informed Indradyumna what happened. Everyone died and someone else has taken up their service. But the king was very determined. I heard this from Lord Brahma. I trust it. Narada Muni took me there. I trust him. Surely what the Lord wants must happen somehow. And sure enough, this humongous log from the spiritual sky appeared by the sea. And many, many men went to get this log. And it was too heavy to lift. But a Shabara, descendant of Vishvavasu easily brought the log to the shore. And then the next plan that the king was taking care of was to have the log carved into a deity. And he had heard the deity from his assistant, Vidyapati, so he asked the carpenters from all over the land to come and carve the deity from this log. But all the craftsmen, whoever came, nothing worked because all their tools broke. Finally, a very old Brahmana named Ananta Maharana just appeared, and he said, I can do this. And yes, I understand this is a kalpavriksha tree from the spiritual world, and you want me to carve a deity. I can do it, but I have one condition. One condition is you leave me uninterrupted. I have to be in a private place, and for 3 weeks, let me just work on the deity uninterrupted. King was fine with that. And so he began his work. However, after 2 weeks, the sound inside the carving room ended. And the king, he has this super enthusiastic desire to see the form of the Lord. And who knows, the old Brahmana, maybe he's so old, maybe he just left his body or something. So, being a little impetuous, he opened the door, and what he saw inside the door was what looked to him like unfinished deities with no hands, no legs. Now, the commentary in this connection says there are verses that say he has no hands and legs, which means he has no material hands, no material legs, but the form of the Lord is all spiritual. He has spiritual hands and spiritual legs and spiritual eyes and spiritual everything. So he thought, it's an unfinished deity. Oh, how bad, what a bad thing I've done. I interrupted the carver. There you see the tools lying on the ground, but no carver. Now, the descendant of Vishvavasu, the Shabara, informed the king, this is okay. This is part of the Lord's plan. It's the part of the Lord's plan because your desire to enter, to see the form of the Lord was entirely a pure spiritual desire. So no wrong was done by you. And let us continue with courage and prepare the deity for the installation by Lord Brahma, like he promised you he would do. And so they began to prepare the deity for the deity installation, painting the deity and so forth and so on. And when the installation finally was to take place, Lord Brahma personally came and dressed the deity. And while he was dressing the deity, Narada Muni explained to everybody, I've seen this deity before. When I was visiting Krishna in Dwarka, there was a discussion about Krishna's pastimes in Braja with all the residents of Vrindavan. And when Krishna was hearing and remembering his pastimes with the residents of Vrindavan, he was stunned in ecstasy. His eyes got really big, and his arms and limbs withdrew, just like this deity. This deity is the manifestation of Krishna feeling separation from the residents of Vrindavan in his pastimes in Vrindavan. That's the deity. I've seen the deity before. The installation of the deity was completed, and the conclusion of this narration is, after the installation, Brahma gave the king a vision to see that both the Shabara that had encouraged him to continue and the old Brahmana that did the carving, they were his previous associates, the same personalities, Vishvavasu and Vidyapati, although so much time had passed. Here's another nice painting of Lord Brahma and his swan carrier. So the deity of Jagannath is a form of the personality of Godhead in a very special mood, the very special mood of love of Vrindavan from the side of the personality of Godhead. We often hear about the mood of the resident of Vrindavan after Krishna departed, but Krishna had the same feelings for them. And when he would remember them, he would become stunned in ecstasy, and this feature of Lord Jagannath was exactly that. And the very same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Krishna himself, experienced that same mood when he came before Lord Jagannath. Love of the personality of Godhead in relation to Vrindavan and his loving associates in Vrindavan. This was Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic mood. As some of you, I'm almost done, some of you may know that Lord Chaitanya, in the course of his time, 24 years of sannyas, he made a travel in South India. Yes? And during the 4 months of the rainy season, where did he stay? Srirangam. And in Srirangam, here's a temple of some deities that were carved by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I've been to this place. It's very nice. You can see the little painted steps. And there's a sign up on the upper right, of course, on the upper left is in the local language. Here's the sign. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during his pilgrimage to South, performed here Chaturmasya. It gives the year, 1510. And inside this Jagannath Mutt is the deities of Jagannath that Lord Chaitanya personally carved with his own hand. Now they look a little different, but they're persons. They look a little different, but this is how Lord Chaitanya saw them. And so there's Krishna, and there's Balaram, and Subhadra has a very fancy crown on. And here's the same deities on a different day. So the place for Lord Jagannath amongst the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has a very special place in our hearts. Some of you may know, in case you don't know, now you'll know. Every year for maybe 35 years, we've been having a retreat in our farm community in Pennsylvania, Gitanagari. And the plan for this Memorial Day weekend is to discuss Krishna in Vrindavan. And the following year, 2026, Memorial Day weekend, we're going to be discussing mysteries in Gaura Leela. And one of those mysteries in Gaura Leela is this, what we're speaking about, that the role of Jagannath in enhancing the mood of love and separation of Lord Chaitanya for Krishna. The role of Lord Jagannath in enhancing and nourishing love in separation, love for Krishna in separation. There's going to be a whole class on that topic. So if you happen to be around Gitanagari, not this Memorial weekend, but the following one, you'll hear some more. So Lord Jagannath, Ki Jai. There's our two topics for this evening. Thank you all for coming. You're from different places. I'm glad to be in your company. And let's see if there's some discussion. I see one hand up in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, yesterday in the...
Could you turn the speaker this way? Thank you.
Yesterday in the presentation you told that, Leela acts according to how Krishna wants, and it knows what Krishna wants and it acts. And today
It's
we have
not
seen,
it, she.
yeah, yeah. And today we have seen like Durga, the goddess of material world, also acts according to Krishna.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
so how can these two be different? I mean, like,
Why not? But let's do this one. Where does there's a source of everything. There's not multiple sources of everything. There's one source of everything, and that one source of everything has expansions, personal expansions, jiva expansions, potency or shakti expansions, and the shakti expansions do what Krishna wants, the source wants. So that you can have different energies that do what Krishna wants. No problem. Living entities, they're in a separate category. You and me, we're in this marginal position. We can be influenced this way or influenced that way, therefore marginal, or tatastha Shakti. We're Shakti, but marginal. And then there's Swarup Shakti. That's not marginal. And there's categories of Swarup Shakti. Expansions and expansions, multiple, unlimited. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Up front.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you for this wonderful class. I have a question that which you showed that two Brahma Samhita verse, Goloka iti namni, then Shishti
Yes.
Sita, that both the verses can we say, do like when we worship Subhadra, can we chant that?
What's your question? I don't understand your question. Do you understand your question?
Yes, my question is, can we chant those two verses when I'm worshipping for Subhadra, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, when I'm doing my prayer? Can I say those two verses to them as a
No.
prayer?
Back to his question. The first question, there are different Shaktis of Shaktiman. Shaktiman is the possessor of, and the Shaktis are the Shaktis. And they're not the same. This Shakti isn't that Shakti, isn't the other Shakti. They're under an umbrella or category of his Swarup Shakti. But they're different Shaktis that do different things in different times. So the answer to your question is no.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, do